The need for speed. Were you late for work today? Can you blame it on the train? The MTA hears you, and they say they're going to do something about it. Pix 11 transportation reporter Greg Mocker recently went on to what made the beginning of a faster track to your office with the people who are trying to tone down your tardiness. Let's take a look.
From the window, watch the city go by. All this motion is controlled by more than 13,000 signals. You've seen them, the red lights, the poles passing as the subway gets us from here to there. Unless there's a signal problem and the train is stopped in its tracks.
On my day off, I really want to go downtown and back fast. They have to fix the train.
Stand back from the platform edge. Here's our train. You can tell it's not a regular ride, not as bright and shiny as the usual transportation.
I got a seat. I should. This is a work train. I ask for a ride along with the newly created Speed Unit. Now that stands for something. Subway Performance Evaluation, Education, and Development Unit.
Train service supervisor Phil Dominguez is at the controls, waiting for red to go green. The signal is connected to this yellow arm. It lowers to allow the train to go by, if it's clear. Those moving parts are part of what can go wrong.
It could be a faulty sensor, it could be a bad circuit, or maybe a whole motor or component has to be replaced.
Crews are checking signals using a radar gun to make sure some of them, which also control speed, are calibrated correctly. And in a couple hundred areas so far around the system, they've determined it is safe to increase the speed. 15 seconds here and there adds up along the line, moves us along, and reduces the weight on the platform. Yes, there are new speed limit signs.
This 30-mile-an-hour sign, I can assure you, did not cost $1 billion. With a few screws, a couple of bolts, and a little bit of metal and paint, we were able to save New Yorkers 15 seconds going through this area.
The MTA just hired a new employee to oversee a new signaling system for the lines. Right now, the L and the 7 have what's called communications-based train control. That has more sensors and software. Fixing what's here, being ready when something comes up, and adjusting the speed limit have an impact now. Get us there safely and maybe even close to being on time. What will we do if we can't blame the train? Greg Mocker, Pix 11 News.
And we're delighted to have Greg Mocker join us now, a friend of the program. Always brings a better sense of what's going on out there.
Yeah, what is going on out there?
Yeah. So let's start with what we just saw here. And you had said to me a few moments ago something interesting. You said, look, speed is very important, but you said you look at it as almost sort of a microcosm of the problems.
It's a tiny thing, and safe speed. We have to emphasize that because one of the reasons that the slower speeds were in there is because there were some fatal incidents in the 80s, 90s, or even 2000s. I think that this represents the tiny things that they need to do and are doing that can move things along, even incrementally. And then it's kind of a symptom of what the bigger picture is. Why didn't anybody look at this before? It's almost because of the inertia of the bureaucracy. This was just the way they always did it. And now we have new leadership in there, and they're kind of taking a look, signal by signal, line by line. Finally.
There's always a question of when new people come in and they say, we're going to take a hard look at this, or we're going to make proposals immediately about this. But then the real issue becomes, can you get it done? What are you seeing here? And let's focus first on this notion of speed, okay, and safe speed, as you said. Are you seeing progress being made?
Yes, they're out there. They're showing us around. They're working with the TWU, the transit workers, to kind of make things happen, to do more inspections, to do more track work. Andy Byford is the new MTA New York City Transit president. Maybe I can't say new anymore. He did start January 2018, so he's been there now for going on a year. I've been covering him for 9 years, so for them to be able to get to this point, to be doing the stepped-up work they have been doing, to kind of be adjusting the speed in hundreds of places. It's more than I've seen in a while. And it still has been steamrolling. The governor had to declare a state of emergency last summer in 18, and that brought some cash, much needed, about $800 million into the system. And it still is kind of moving along faster than it has been, but, you know,
It
We
gives
always
us,
want it
gives us a
fast.
sense how dire this situation is when we talk about $800 million as being a bit of a drop in the bucket for
Yeah,
what has
because
to be done.
30 billion might be the signal cost, and that's billion with a B. Because right now they're still trying to maintain a state of good repair. The 100-year-old system plus in some places, getting older every day, and you're putting Band-Aids on some things. You're replacing what is still older technology, except on the 7 or the L train when it comes to the signals. And that's ultimately the thing that allows them to run more trains closer together safely. And they have to buy more trains. It's not like they're parked somewhere, and then that's a cost. So that has to be ordered. There's been issues with the orders from the manufacturer. They've switched back to the other one, original one. It's such a giant system.
Yeah.
We're bound to have complaints and issues.
Let me jump to some other topics and get an update from you if we can as we start this new year here. Congestion pricing has been an interesting issue in the sense that a few years ago people were saying, of course, this is never going to happen.
No way, Mayor Bloomberg.
Right, not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Where do you think we are now with it?
To see the first phase included in the last year budget, that was a major step forward. Of course, a judge has put that on hold. Phase 1 was a $250 surcharge on taxis, $275 on the for-hire, the ride-hail apps, and that was to take effect on January 1st. The Taxi Drivers Alliance asked the judge to delay it so the state could prove in court why the state feels it has the authority to do this. So we might have just delayed the inevitable there. This phase 2 is on the priority list. Governor Cuomo has talked about it. Legislative people have been pushing it. And this is another one of those examples of something that has been in motion. This would be a surcharge on all vehicles entering the business district. And does that mean south of 60th Street, or what boundary do they pick to define Midtown Manhattan, and how much will that be?
Some of those details need to be worked out.
Right.
Let me ask you one last question. And this is, I've always had a fascination with Penn Station. I remember looking at the pictures of the old Penn Station, you know, palatial, grand train station. You look at it now and it's sort of low ceiling and it's crowded. They've done improvements.
Yeah, there are lights on in places that weren't
I mean, much
before,
better than
so-
it was when I was
Yes.
commuting, 40 years ago or so. And you hear about the Moynihan Station across the street in that great post office building. As I drive past it, I realized the other day, I have no idea what's going on with
Yeah,
it.
there is a lot of interior work, and we got to look in there earlier in the fall. And they're really hollowing it out to create kind of what you see down now at the Oculus. Which is a space for retail and restaurants. And I'm going to say that this is a good thing because the MTA and transit needs to maximize the real estate around it. And and this is what other systems do. One of the reasons that the systems in Asia are so successful besides some work rules, they have money that comes in from rents and from maximizing the real estate, kind of value capture around commercial space that benefits with transit improvements. So the Penn Station thing is an example of that happening, but also then we had a discussion about could that money have been better well spent on repair and toward the signals, a lot of moving parts.
When you look at other stations, I was in London a couple of weeks ago, and I was at the Paddington Station, great
That's
old,
the
cool,
busy one.
and it's surrounded by all sorts of marvelous stores that they built into the structure there. And people are going there just to go shopping. Not who were going anywhere. And I was waiting for a train. I went in and bought something.
Yeah, and that's the model. We're not reinventing the wheel, the subway wheel here, but sometimes we like to think of that. And we do have a lot of other things to deal with, it being union rules, the situations here, neighbors as well in the city. But it seems like and the size of it, that there is a momentum now.
Well, Greg, it's always a pleasure to have you here. We always learn a whole lot when you come visit
Always,
us.
me too,
There's
every
a lot
day.
to learn out there.
Yeah.
All right, thanks again. You be well.